she discovered the amazing truth about the man at her table, a millionaire single dad exposed. Emily Turner wiped her brow with the back of her hand, her fingers smudged with the remnants of greasy fries. The diner was bustling, laughter and the clatter of dishes rising and falling like the tide. Yet amidst the cheerful chaos, an unexpected weight hung over her heart. She glanced toward the corner booth, where Jack, the quiet single dad who occasionally lurked in her periphery, sat reading a book, his brow furrowed, absorbing every word. What was it about him that lingered so persistently in her mind? Max's broken bicycle cast a shadow over her thoughts. 3 weeks of waiting for funds to repair it was suffocating her. Each day at Daisy's diner was a reminder of how exhausted she felt treading water in debt, uncertain of how to keep her brilliant son engaged and encouraged in a world that seemed to have shaped itself around their struggles. Jack, with that air of mystery about him, was an anomaly. The moments shared at the diner, his gentle humor, and a sincerity that melted Emily's resolve. But she clung tight to her frayed sense of independence, aware of the societal whispers that would inevitably follow her should she let him get too close. Soon, her internal dialogue was disrupted by her determined thoughts trying to push away fondness for Jack. The nagging fear that his unspoken past might disrupt her fragile balance gripped her tighter. Could she risk her heart? Could she even risk the way she fought to define a stable life for Max? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack raised his gaze, their eyes met for a fleeting moment, charged with an unsaid understanding. But near as they were, Emily felt miles apart, fighting her conflicted emotions as reality twisted like a vine around her heart. He was well off, or so the rumors suggested. How did she know the man behind that smile wouldn't look away once he found out she was just a waitress scraping by to keep her son happy? Then, like a flash, she heard a patron whisper about Jack's life during a hushed conversation near the counter. The words millionaire, architect, and pain floated into her consciousness, echoing a dissonance she couldn't ignore. Did his wealth make him untrustworthy, or was that bias just her own insecurities speaking? As she refilled coffee cups, doubts swirled within her, choking her determination to dismiss him once and for all, her heart fighting against the notion that perhaps he could help her with Max's bike repairs. The weight of judgment from both the patrons and her own psyche settled like a heavy coat on her shoulders, amplifying the turmoil inside. Unbeknownst to her, as she wrapped her apron tightly around her waist, an old nemesis from her past walked through the door. Shadows of her mistakes began to rise again, threatening to unravel everything she had worked so hard for. Would her new bond with Jack stand the test of scrutiny, or would it shatter like fragile glass under a harsh spotlight? Emily felt her chest tighten. The challenges ahead loomed large, and the diner buzzed around her, a beacon of community secrets and hidden truths. She clenched her fists, battling the storm inside her, caught in the eye of a tornado, grasping for clarity as waves of uncertainty crashed around her. This was only the beginning of her reckoning. Her choices and their consequences could change everything, yet the path forward remained shrouded in doubt. Emily's pulse quickened as the familiar figure approached the counter. It was Lisa, her high school best friend turned adversary, the one person who knew every intimate detail of Emily's shortcomings. The bright-eyed woman contrasted sharply with the dim light of the diner, her presence a flash of danger in a space that had felt deceptively safe until now. Emily could almost feel her former life pressing against her spine, an unwanted reminder of the girl she had been, floundering on the fringes of society's expectations. "Hey there, Emily." Lisa's voice rang out, dripping with feigned cheer. The mockery was tangible, and as she leaned casually against the counter, Emily felt the walls closing in. Sharp reminders of lost dreams grazed her skin like barbs. "Hi, Lisa," Emily managed, her voice nearly drowned by the clamor around her. Her mind raced. Would her past mistakes suddenly come to light in the diner, erupting into the chaos of order and noise? Would Lisa, confident, successful Lisa, are allowing everyone to hear how far she had fallen? Lisa's eyes flashed to the corner booth, landing on Jack like a hawk zeroing in on a rabbit. I didn't know you were involved with someone. The SEC that followed sliced through the chatter. And a millionaire, no less. Aren't we moving up in the world? Emily's heart sank. A wave of defensiveness gripped her as she fought to maintain her composure. It's not like that. Her own words dripped with the bitterness of a life unfulfilled. The weight of judgment threatened to buckle her knees. Isn't it? I mean, Lisa leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. You do know people talk about him, right? Losing his wife, having to raise a kid alone, is that really the kind of mess you want to get involved in? It seems complicated. Emily's stomach twisted tighter. It was as though Lisa had dissected her fears with surgical precision, illuminating the vulnerability she desperately tried to hide. The thought of getting tangled in Jack's complexity both frightened and fascinated her. Questions swirled in her head like autumn leaves caught in a storm. Was he simply a mirage, an escape from her reality? Could a relationship with him spiral beyond her control and into deeper pain? As she forced herself to look Lisa in the eyes, she realized something crucial. She was tired of running from the truth. This moment the judgment and whispers challenged her to confront both her past and present without the haze of denial clouding her vision. No more pushing down insecurities. It was time to step into her own skin. I'm not ashamed of my life, Lisa. I'm doing what I can for my son. Emily's voice came out stronger than she expected, igniting a small spark of defiance. And if Jack turns out to be a good person, well, that wouldn't be so bad, would it? The silence that followed was heavy with a kind of unspoken respect, and Emily saw something shift in Lisa's expression. Maybe the truths hidden beneath layers of judgment were starting to crack. With newfound determination, Emily focused her energy on Jack, the one person who had unknowingly steadied her tumbling heart. She'd learn more about his story, see if the whispers were truth or mere rumor. His smile, albeit enigmatic, held the potential for both hope and risk, and she had to choose a path forward for Max, for herself. As the restlessness in her heart faded to a simmering resolve, she felt the potential for real change begin to bloom. But the jury was still out. Where would that desire lead? The moment Emily stepped away from Lisa, a thought haunted her. What if Jack chose the mess of his own past over her? Would losing him bring another cycle of heartache she wasn't sure she could bear? No, this wasn't the time to falter. It was time to arm herself with knowledge, to peel back the layers and uncover the truths lying beneath the surface of both their lives. But as she prepared to approach Jack, a heavy hand landed on her shoulder. The familiar dread washed over her anew. The hand belonged to someone even more unexpected than Lisa, a figure from her past she had hoped to never encounter again. Would this meeting shatter her newfound resolve? Emily's breath caught in her throat as she turned to face the person behind her. The figure was unmistakable, Mark, the one who had betrayed her in the past, the one whose actions had contributed to the chaos that once enveloped her life. His presence ignited a horrifying blend of anger and anxiety, but also forced a sense of clarity. Emily, he said, his voice low, as if they shared a secret only they could comprehend. I didn't expect to see you here. It's been a long time. Not long enough, she retorted, attempting to dismiss him with the steel in her tone. Each word felt like a small battle, an assertion of her resolve. She thought of Max, her son, who deserved calm and clarity, not reminders of her past missteps. Look, can we just talk for a second? Mark insisted, his expression shifting to an unfamiliar seriousness that disarmed her momentarily. This isn't just about us. I want to help. You're with Jack now, right? Her heart hammered against her chest. How did he know? Then, reality crashed down on her. This was the very danger she had long wanted to escape, her history colliding with her present. Just leave me alone, Mark. I'm not interested in what you have to say, she said, wishing she could pour her defiance into a more substantial armor. Emily, he pressed, stepping closer, his gaze filled with an intensity that demanded acknowledgement. You don't even know half of it. Jack isn't just a millionaire. There's a reason people are whispering about him, and it's not what you think. The revelation hung thick in the air, each word a potential spike to her growing curiosity. It's exactly what Lisa had cautioned her about. She could feel the hairs on her neck rising. If there was truth to Mark's words, the consequences could be catastrophic. But was she ready to open that door? Without responding, she turned away, ready to walk toward Jack. Each step brought her closer to him, yet she felt the pulse of uncertainty building, heavy against her chest. What if Jack was just another mirage? A reflection of a dream she could never fully grasp. Emily, wait. Mark's voice rose above the bustle of the diner, cracking through the surface of her thoughts. But she didn't look back, she would not give him that power. Jack glanced up from his spot, a soft smile spreading across his face, pulling her in with unspoken promise. He seemed genuinely pleased to see her approach, yet the shadows of her disquiet crept alongside her. Would he still smile when he learned the darkness that lurked behind him? Hey, she said, her voice brave but laced with uncertainty. She studied his face, searching for answers hidden behind his kind eyes. Can we talk? Alone? Jack's expression shifted slightly, he could sense the weight she carried. Sure, everything okay? Managing a nod, she led him toward the quieter part of the diner, her mind racing with questions, possibilities, and the ghost of Mark's warning swirling around her. Once they were seated in a booth far from the clattering dishes and laughter, Emily felt the gravity of what was to come. She had to know. She had to confront this new potential reality, and simultaneously shield her heart as she tread into the water of his complexities. There's something I need to ask you, she began, her voice steadying slowly, a fragile flame against the harsh winds of uncertainty. But before she could utter the questions that swirled in her mind like lost leaves in October, Jack leaned forward, urgency igniting his eyes. Emily, I've been meaning to tell you something important about my past. The tension between them seemed to thicken. Just outside the sphere of their conversation, the diner buzzed, a stark contrast to the turbulent emotions brewing within her. Would this moment fracture the fragile bond they were building, or would it weave them stronger into the fabric of each other's lives? At that moment, Emily realized she stood at a precipice, a moment where her decisions held the weight of her future. The path ahead seemed daunting, but she steeled herself for the truth she was about to uncover. Okay, she replied, bracing for whatever would spill from his lips next, her heart echoing with uncertainty. But amid the apprehension, a flicker of hope dared to shimmer. What would she discover once all the masks were stripped away? Jack's voice softened, reverberating through the air between them. I haven't been fully honest with you about my background. He hesitated, and Emily felt the weight of his unspoken reality pressing in on her. Before this life, before everything, I was involved in some risky ventures. Business deals that put me in the crosshairs of consequences I never anticipated. The admission flowed over her like icy water, leaving her breathless. The tranquility she had associated with Jack now felt like a thin veil, ready to tear apart at any moment. Her heart raced, not just from the revelation but from a flurry of memories, those painful moments of betrayal from her past echoing like a dark symphony. What do you mean by risky ventures? She pushed, the edge of her voice tight and raw. It was a question she needed to ask, yet a part of her feared the answer. Every instinct urged her to protect Max and herself from further heartache, yet her determination to unearth the truth compelled her forward. He ran a hand through his hair, looking genuinely conflicted, and for a moment, it struck her just how vulnerable he appeared. I was young, overly ambitious. I got involved with people who were not exactly above board. I thought I could handle it, build something from the ground up. But when things went south, he took a deep breath, scrunching his eyes shut. I lost everything. I had to start over. His admission was laced with a tinge of regret and an unexpected candor that drew Emily in further than she anticipated. She marveled at the possibility that perhaps his self-made rise was not so shallow after all, but rather a journey marked by legitimate struggles and redemption. Are you saying you were, what? Some kind of criminal? The words tasted bitter in her mouth. She had sworn never to let herself become entwined with someone else's past again, never to risk her fragile safety. It's not as black and white as that, he frowned, meeting her harsh gaze. I might have crossed some lines, but I'm not the man I was back then. I've changed, Emily. I'm here now, trying to build our life on honesty and trust. His eyes searched hers, a plea veiled within his admission. Amidst the thoughts racing through her mind, a louder voice emerged, her instinct to protect herself and Max at all costs. Could she trust him? The words of Mark echoed in her thoughts, weaving doubt into her resolve. She felt the tightrope stretch beneath her, teetering on the brink of discovery versus denial. If there's more to this, she pressed, taking a risk by leaning into the uncertainty, then now is the time to be honest. I can't face another betrayal. Not again. Jack's expression shifted, a mask of sincerity draping over the tension. I want you to know everything, he insisted. I've rebuilt my life. But there are still pieces of my past that haunt me, and people who might not fully let go. Her heart wrenched at the weight of his honesty, but that came with its own set of consequences. Did she really have the strength to accept him as he was? To confront the lingering shadows of his past? I want to believe you, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But my trust has been broken before, and it takes time for me to heal. Jack nodded, his gaze unwavering. I understand. I'm ready to wait. Whatever it takes. But I promise to be transparent. You deserve that. In that moment, the world around them faded, leaving her alone with the gravity of vulnerability, his and her own. Emily realized she faced a decision that transcended her fears. It wasn't merely about discovering Jack's past, but also about confronting her own walls, her own scars. As Jack leaned back, his body language shifting to one of openness, Emily knew that she could take a leap of faith. This could be her moment of transformative growth. The path ahead required courage, but the promise of an authentic relationship beckoned her like a lighthouse guiding a lost ship. Yet, even as hope emerged within her, another layer of uncertainty whispered in her mind. What if Mark's words held a kernel of truth? Just how secure was her newfound reliance on Jack, and where would it lead her? Her thoughts spiraled, threading uncertainty with anticipation. The next chapter loomed on the horizon, and Emily was beginning to understand the depths of her own resilience. Just as she was prepared to delve deeper into this evolving bond, a nagging question lingered. What would happen when the past she tried so hard to escape clawed its way back, forcing her to confront not only Jack's secrets but her own unresolved demons as well? Emily took a step back, both literally and emotionally. The weight of Jack's revelations settled around her like a dense fog, obscuring clarity and leaving a lingering unease in its wake. Her mind, a mishmash of thoughts, darted through the implications of what she had learned. Behind Jack's sincere facade lay a reality that challenged everything she had painstakingly rebuilt over the years. Your past, she murmured, her voice taut, as if the words themselves held the power to shatter her already fragile trust. What if it comes back to haunt you? To haunt us? Jack's gaze dulled momentarily, a fleeting flicker of uncertainty crossing his features. I've cut ties. I'm through with that life, he responded, his tone lacking the fervor she hoped would reassure her. Yet, there was a kernel of determination in his voice that resonated with her, almost igniting a spark of hope deep within. Still, doubt gnawed at her. The recognition that Jack had been through the fire and emerged, albeit singed, stirred conflicting emotions. She was drawn to the idea of him as a resilient man seeking redemption, but the stark thought of her own vulnerabilities, having once been exploited, stood as a protective barrier. She took a deep breath, letting it fill her with fortitude. It was recognition time, a moment to face the truth without the haze of fear. Tell me about those ties. Who are these people you've cut off? Jack leaned back, the tension coiling back into his shoulders as he engineered a thoughtful pause. There are some, let's call them associates, who don't take kindly to being dismissed. For them, business is personal. I'm trying to make sure they don't track me down. The pit in her stomach tightened. And what if they find you? What if they find us? The mere thought of Max, the essence of her heart, becoming a potential victim filled her with icy dread. I won't let that happen, Jack declared, a fierce glimmer igniting in his eyes. Emily, I came here to have a better life, to be a different man. I'd do anything to protect you and Max. His sincerity was palpable, but as an echo of the wounded past replayed in her memory, she fought to silence her heart that seemed willing to take a leap while her mind screamed in protest. What if this change isn't enough? She asked, her voice trembling under the weight of her vulnerable honesty. The shadows of past betrayal loomed large, armed with painful reminders that trust could so easily be squandered. Jack reached across the table, his hand hovering tentative yet eager. You must know this battle isn't just mine. It's yours too. I can't expect you to jump in without confronting your own demons. Think about who you want to become in this moment. Who do you want to be in this relationship? His words struck a chord, reverberating long after they were spoken. The mirror he held up to her own insecurities reflected not just fear of losing herself amidst Jack's tumultuous past but also the possibility of empowerment through her choices. She had built walls fortified with caution, yet something about Jack's earnestness chipped away at those foundations. As she sought clarity, her mind spiraled back to Max. The child had never asked for the chaos life had thrust upon him. That thought tethered her focus. She needed to get this right, not just for her own sake, but for his safety and security. Decision time was looming, and just as she gathered her courage to express her resolution, the slight buzz of her phone disrupted the moment. A notification, blinking insistently for attention. Jack, sensing the shift, pulled back his hand slightly, his expression clouding with speculation. Intrigued, she glanced at the screen and felt her heart plunge into her stomach. It was a message from Mark, her past spreading its unwelcome arms, threatening to encircle her again. We need to talk, it read. The air thickened with tension as she exchanged a glance with Jack, each of them silently weighing what this could mean for their faltering trust. Faced with a message that promised confrontation, Emily felt the familiar pull of two roads diverging in front of her, the one that led to confronting her past and potentially unraveling everything, or the one that held the promise of a new life with Jack, fraught with perils of its own. As she looked back at Jack, setting her resolve, she realized that this moment could define not only their relationship but also her own strength in standing up against the past. Would she embrace this new path, regardless of the shadows that loomed, or retreat back into the safety of her own solitude? The weight of both decisions hung heavy in the air, heavy as the dread of what the next confrontation would bring. Would she finally shield herself from the past, or would she stand firm, ready to confront whatever was to come? Emily's heart raced as the looming threat of the past tangibly filled the room. She stared unblinking at the screen, Mark's words anchoring back to the shadows that danced darkly in her mind. It was more than just a reminder of who she used to be. It felt like an echo of a life that reasoned day by day, displacing her growth and newfound independence. What does he want? Jack's voice pierced through her stupor, his concern palpable, pulling her focus back to the reality before her. I don't know, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack leaned forward, his elbows resting on the table, posture radiating both determination and impatience. You have to handle this, Emily. Take control of the narrative. Don't let your past define you. His fervor ignited a flicker of resolve within her, but she wavered. Fear's insidious grip threatened to pull her back, deep into the familiarity of emotional paralysis. She had already triumphed over so much, sculpting her identity after years of neglect and automatic responses, but the prospect of facing Mark felt like an assault on the progress she had made. I thought I was done with that part of my life. Not yet, apparently. Jack remained firm, yet the gentleness in his voice spoke to the vulnerabilities they both faced. This is your moment. It's time to embrace the woman who has come so far. She took a measured breath, scanning their surroundings as if searching for external support amid internal chaos. The comforting hum of the cafe buzzed around them, yet her world felt meticulously isolated. Each heartbeat confined her to this pivotal choice, a crossroads demanding her attention and courage. What if he threatens you? What if he threatens Max? The spirals of self-doubt began to coalesce, clouding the clarity she sought. Jack regarded her with unwavering intensity. Emily, think of all you've done for Max so far. You didn't back down from that fight. Why let someone from your past come in and reshuffle your future? Take the steps to solidify where you both stand now. The simplicity of his approach became a lifeline in her moment of confusion. She realized that she needed to confront Mark, not only for herself but for Max, her life's anchor. Communication, even with the specter of old wounds, could be powerful. She could redefine her stance, reclaim her power, and create space for growth. What if I meet him? The words tumbled from her mouth, full of uncertainty but laced with the audacity of planning. The tactical shift toward agency began to take root in her thoughts, planting the seeds of transformation. Jack nodded slowly, an approving spark igniting in his eyes. Then let us do it together. What does the next step look like? Are you ready to face him on your own terms? The slight tremor of anxiety still lingered, yet the prospect of seizing her narrative emerged as a clarion, drowning out the cacophony of fear and despair. She knew confrontation could be fierce but necessary, an act of self-definition. I'm ready, she declared, each word bolstered by newfound strength. I'll call him and set a meeting. The air buzzed with intent. In this moment, she became not just an onlooker in the story of her life, but the leading character herself. As she pulled her phone from the table, a sensation of empowerment coursed through her veins. She could feel herself shedding the weight of old insecurities. The message she drafted felt like chalk on a slate, her past ready to be rewritten. Yet, with the clarity of determination came the electric hum of anticipation. Would Mark respect her newfound boundaries? Would he attempt to dismantle what she had strived to rebuild? A sudden chill snaked along her spine, and she hesitated, fingers poised over the screen. How are you feeling, really? Jack's voice, gentle but probing, added weight to the atmosphere. I'm terrified. But I need to do this. More than ever. As the words left her lips, realization struck. She was no longer just reeling from past mistakes, she was about to reforge her identity, an act that could yield self-respect and clarity. That had previously eluded her. Yet another storm loomed on the horizon. With Mark potentially looming in the shadows, Emily understood that the confrontation was her test, one that could redefine her present and her future with Jack. Uncertainty kissed her resolve as she finally pressed send. The message was dispatched, and the response could define her next steps. She locked eyes with Jack, who watched her with unyielding support. But what if confronting Mark stirred not just her past but also stirred stronger currents that neither of them was prepared for? The darkness rolled in, cloaked in potential threats, poised to challenge everything she thought she had secured. Emily's phone vibrated, drawing her from her swirling thoughts. The notification from Mark illuminated the screen with a striking urgency. As she quickly read the words, a mixture of disbelief and apprehension surged through her. Let us meet. 5 p.m. tomorrow. The park. We need to settle this. A sinking sensation settled in her stomach. The park, a place of innocent laughter and sunny afternoons, now a site for her confrontation. It felt too symbolic, too easy for the ghosts of her past to echo among the trees. She found herself staring blankly at the screen, her mind racing with what-ifs. What did he say? Jack's question pulled her back again, his eyes searching hers for any indication of her emotional state. He wants to meet at the park. She could feel the weight of her breath, each word heavy with the gravity of the situation. Jack's brow knitted together, concern deepening the lines on his forehead. What do you think? Are you still resolved to do this? I have to be prepared for anything, she replied, grounding herself in the reality of her decision. This was her moment to reclaim authority over her life, rather than let her past dictate it. The confrontation could no longer be a source of fear, it had to be a platform for her empowerment. Then let's do some planning, Jack said, leaning back in his chair while interlocking his fingers. What do you want to get out of this meeting? The question hung in the air, demanding clarity. What did she want? A sense of peace? Assurance that he wouldn't disrupt her newfound life? Or perhaps a confrontation of sorts, one that would allow her to deliver her boundaries and ensure he'd respect them. I need to stand my ground, she spoke slowly, each word calculated and firm. I can't let him walk over me, or make me feel small again. Jack nodded appreciatively. That's exactly the attitude you need. Prepare for him to push your buttons. Approach this encounter with both grit and composure. You're not alone in this. His unwavering support fueled her resolve. Planning became a detailed strategy. They mapped out possible scenarios, role-playing each interaction until the anticipated anxieties began to dissipate. Yet, beneath the surface of each mock confrontation, Emily could still feel the tremors of vulnerability trembling within her core, the remnants of self-doubt that lingered. As the hours passed, anxiety knotted in her stomach, but it was mixed with a burgeoning excitement. She spent the night honing her mental scripts, visualizing herself addressing Mark directly, reclaiming the narrative. The fear of his potential rebuttals no longer loomed over her, rather, she imagined herself asserting her voice, loud and clear. She could see herself standing there unstoppable. The morning arrived alongside a palpable tension, anticipation hanging in the air like fog. She dressed carefully, each piece of clothing felt like armor, a deliberate choice to convey her strength. As she glanced in the mirror, she couldn't help but appreciate the woman standing before her, a woman who had fought her way back to self-respect, clarity, and identity. Arriving early at the park, she took a moment to breathe in the crisp morning air, attempting to center herself as she mentally prepared for the confrontation. Children laughed in the distance, couples strolled blissfully, unaware of the storm brewing within her. Then, Mark appeared, his silhouette unmistakable, a memory flooding back that felt both familiar and alien. With his arrival, Emily's breath caught, uncertainty intertwining with fierce determination. No turning back now. I've waited long enough for this, she whispered under her breath, each word taut with resolve. It was time to face her past and reshape the future she envisioned. Yet as Mark approached, she felt the familiar prickle of dread creep up her spine. Would he accept her boundaries, or would he attempt to drag her back into old patterns that nearly shattered her? The moment hung delicately in the air, a threshold straddled between two worlds, the past and the potential of what could be. In the depths of her thoughts, Emily wondered, what unexpected truths lay beneath Mark's calm exterior. Would she be ready to face them? As Emily stood rooted to the spot, tension coiled within her gut, she scrutinized Mark's expression, searching for clues that might reveal his intentions. The playful chirping of birds forked the air, but her ears were deafened by the pounding of her heart. He glanced around, seemingly casual, yet there was something unsettling in the way his eyes darted, scanning the expanse of the park as if he was looking for an escape route. Emily, he called softly, breaking the tension, pulling her from her reverie. But his voice, warm and inviting, felt like a tempest on her skin. Mark, she replied, forcing the word out, her own voice wavering, tinged with both anxiety and control. She fought the urge to retreat, reminding herself of the armor she had donned, visualizations of assertiveness and strength. This was her moment. Mark approached, a slight smile teasing the corners of his mouth. You look different, he observed, leaning against a nearby picnic table, his arms crossed casually, but Emily sensed the calculation behind the nonchalance. Different is good, she countered, consciously standing a little taller, projecting the confidence she struggled to embrace internally. His smile faltered, and in that fraction of a second, Emily saw a flicker of vulnerability more potent than any facade he displayed over the years. Was it guilt? Regret? The many layers of their history churned, but she didn't let herself get lost in the past. She was here to guide the conversation, to steer this ship towards her goals. I've been thinking about finally reaching out to you, he continued, his tone suddenly earnest. I want us to have a civilized conversation. The word civilized hung dangerously in the air. Emily felt a need to call him out on the dissonance between his choice of words and the turmoil he had caused in her life. Civilized? She echoed, fire igniting in her words. You and I have a history that makes civilized incredibly complicated. He took a step closer, the weight of unspoken words bridging the gap. I know. And I regret how things ended. I miss us. Each syllable was drenched in a blend of nostalgia and manipulation, but Emily was not the naive girl he once knew. Do you really? Her voice was firm, challenging him to reveal his true self. Would he own the messiness that had dogged their relationship? Would he finally acknowledge his shortcomings or continue to wield charm as a weapon? Mark hesitated, the tension thickening, and for a fleeting moment, uncertainty danced in his eyes. I want to make it right. I want to understand your perspective, Emily. Despite her carefully crafted resolve, a flicker of curiosity stirred within her. Could he truly want to understand, or was this another ploy? Understanding comes with accountability, she shot back, feeling a surge of empowerment. The intricacies of her past shaped her, but they no longer defined her. Accountability, he repeated softly, taking a step back, considering her words. I'll do whatever it takes. With that declaration, Emily felt the balance of power subtly shift in her favor. Each heartbeat echoed against the depth of his words, igniting something within her. But would that promise translate into genuine change? The moment teetered dangerously between hope and skepticism. Emily's instincts screamed at her to protect herself, yet there was a potent part of her eager for clarity, a craving to understand the man standing before her. Just as the questions bubbled to the surface of her mind, a sudden commotion broke through the serene sounds of the park. An argument erupted among a group nearby, shattering the tension that had cocooned her and Mark. Startled, she turned, absorbing the disruption. As she composed herself, a strange resolve settled in. She realized she could still navigate this encounter on her own terms. I need to know if you can truly change, she stated, returning her attention to Mark with considerable intensity. And that starts now. With lines once blurred becoming starkly clear, she could feel the air crackling with potential. But what else would she discover? About Mark and about herself during this confrontation? As they squared off, the turning point of their relationship surrounded them, each holding the potential to shatter illusions or build bridges. How would the past's shadows loom over the possibilities of their future? Emily's heart thrummed in her chest as she assessed the magnitude of her statement. Mark's face shifted, caught off guard by the sudden intensity of her words. The moment felt like a spring coiling tighter, ready to snap or soar, depending on his response. Change isn't just words, Mark. It is actions that align with what you say, she pressed, feeling the weight of her own truth resonating with each syllable. This was no longer just about her relationship with him, this was about her reclaiming her own narrative. She leaned in slightly, channeling the determination she had built over months of self-reflection and growth. I understand, he replied, his voice lower, its edge more somber. His eyes held hers, seeking resonance, but all Emily felt was a cacophony of memories intertwined with an unfamiliar prospect of vulnerability. But I want to prove it to you. Give me a chance to show you that it can be different. His plea swirled within her, colliding against what she knew to be his history of avoidance and irresponsibility. The remnants of doubt battled with the flickers of hope ignited by his earnestness. Yet, Emily understood that hope alone couldn't rewrite their past. Pragmatic steps had to take precedence. This isn't about what you want, Mark, she stated, feeling an empowering rage rise beneath her skin. This isn't a negotiation. What I need is to see you act differently, to take concrete steps toward accountability. She watched as he absorbed her words, processing them deeply. For a fleeting moment, Emily glimpsed something different in him, an acknowledgement of the weight of her experience. Perhaps his desire for change was not merely lip service, but a real shift he wanted to embrace. Yet skepticism loomed like a thunderhead, and her caution couldn't wane. As they stood there, the ruckus from the nearby argument started to fade into the background, an echo of chaos that further highlighted their confrontation. Emily felt a swell of awareness. This was her moment of agency. The delicious thrill of possibility merged with the dread of potential disappointment. Let us start by addressing the causes of our issues, she said decisively. No more avoiding the hard conversations. I want to know why you did what you did, the choices that led us here. The words felt heavy, yet liberating. The willingness to confront the foundation of their struggles represented the transition she yearned for, not only between them but within herself. Mark's expression shifted, transforming from recognition to defensiveness as he crossed his arms tighter against his chest. It's never as simple as that, Emily. You know I didn't intend to hurt you. I was lost. I still am. Then let us navigate this together, she countered. Empathy tinged her voice, but she didn't let it dilute her authority. If you're struggling alone, how will you ever find your way back to us or to yourself? Emily sensed a crack appearing in the walls he had constructed. His vulnerability, previously masked with bravado, began to resurface. It wasn't about erasing the challenges, it was about acknowledging them head-on and moving forward, step by step. He hesitated, weighing his response against her clear demand for authenticity. Was he ready to own his actions? Would he unravel the layers that had perpetuated the rift between them? Can we meet somewhere honest, then? He asked finally, his scanned gaze softening. I want to try. I'm scared, but I want to be better. Emily's gut twisted uncomfortably, considering the implications. Fear could lead to failure, yet fear could also ignite transformation. Meet me halfway, and let us see if we can build something real this time, she offered, her words serving as both a challenge and an invitation. The next moments hung heavy in the air, the stakes clarified. She could feel the challenge coiling around them, charging the atmosphere. Was she ready to venture into this uncertain territory, risking another heartbreak to see if he could truly change? Just then, Mark shifted again, the tension in his demeanor suggesting a weighty revelation was about to surface. There's something I haven't told you, he began, his voice trembling with potential honesty. Emily's breath caught in her throat, anticipation crackling around them. What was held back within him that could redefine everything they had forged or destroyed together? Tell me, she urged, the potential sway of her journey converging on this pivotal moment. Would this revelation solidify his commitment to change, or would it lead to more uncertainty? Mark took a deep breath, the weight of his confession visibly hanging in the air. I've been seeing a therapist, he admitted, his vulnerability raw against the backdrop of their history. 4 months now. I needed to figure out why I spiraled the way I did, to confront the patterns I've repeated. I didn't want to keep hurting you, Emily. The enormity of his admission settled between them like a bridge they had long feared to cross. Emily's heart raced not just with concern, but with a surprisingly potent glimmer of hope. The man she once knew was shedding his arrogance, revealing layers of remorse and genuine effort. I was afraid, he continued, his gaze intense yet softer. Afraid of admitting I needed help. Afraid of failing again. But I don't want to be that person anymore. I want you to know I'm working on it. For a moment, silence enveloped them. The bustling park filled with laughter and vibrant conversations faded into the background, and all Emily could focus on was the truth sitting before her. She hadn't expected this, yet it was the authenticity she desperately needed to hear. Mark, she began carefully, gauging her next words, if you genuinely want to be different, it starts with acknowledging your actions. It's not just about therapy. It's showing up for your commitments, taking accountability. I know, he nodded, his tone earnest. I can't fix everything overnight, but I want to start over. I miss our friendship, and I want to rebuild trust with you. As she absorbed his words, Emily recognized the delicate balance of emotions swirling within her: fear, hope, anger, and regret. She had wrestled her own demons for far too long to be caught off guard now. Would she allow his past to compromise the future she envisioned, or could she slice through the uncertainties and choose to accept this evolving reality? Trust needs action, not just words, Mark. Show me you mean it, she replied, a firm measure threading through her voice. If you want me in your life, it has to be built on a foundation that acknowledges the messiness of our past. He looked down, as if reflecting on the weight of her words, but when his eyes met hers again, they felt resolute. I'm willing to prove it. I want to earn your trust back, even if it takes time. The breeze swept lightly through the park, rustling the leaves around them. The tranquility offered a moment of clarity, grounding Emily in the certainty of her decision. You understand why I need boundaries, right? Emily pressed further, each word charged with purpose. I need to protect Max, and my own heart from falling into patterns we've both experienced before. A flicker of understanding crossed Mark's eyes. I completely understand. I don't want to put you and Max through more chaos. It's time for me to step up. This acknowledgement, this willingness to step forward videoed a new chapter in their conversations. She could almost feel chance stitching its threads, binding possibility and courage together. Just know, Emily continued, her heart beginning to stir with something she hadn't allowed in a long time, I need to see sustained change. You'll need to keep communicating, even when it feels difficult. Mark nodded earnestly. I promise to be transparent. If something doesn't feel right, I'll bring it to the table. With their agreement framing the path forward, Emily felt the tension in her body begin to dissipate. Here was the acknowledgement of their past and an authentic desire to build anew a fragile yet promising foundation that could strengthen with shared effort. Let us take it one step at a time, she said, breathing in the moment with renewed spirit. Let us check in with each other regularly. I can't do this alone, I need to know you are also committed. Absolutely, he affirmed, a genuine smile breaking through the remnants of apprehension. One step at a time. And maybe we can go for coffee afterward? It could be our first act of moving forward. In a moment of unexpected joy, Emily felt a peace wash over her. The prospect of casual coffee implied shared laughter, companionship, bits of everyday life that had almost been lost amidst their turbulence. I'd like that, she found herself agreeing, a warmth blooming in her heart. As she turned to face the park, memories of their tumultuous past started to dissolve into the gentle winds of change. No longer was she merely a waitress trying to keep her head above water. She was a woman determined to assert her identity and navigate the landscape of her journey alongside someone learning to be different, a partnership built from the ashes of difficulty. As they began to walk side by side, conversations flowed freely, chasing away the remnants of hurt and anxiety. It was a great leap for both of them, one grounded in growth and intense reflection, two paths converging, forged anew by courage and commitment. Emily had conquered the fears that had long held her captive. She was shaping her story, her independence and strength reaffirmed through determination. She would remain vigilant nurturer of her own evolution while allowing room for the possibility of shared growth. On that sun-drenched afternoon, at a park where childhood laughter rang out freely, Emily and Mark began to recraft their lives individually, empowered yet intertwined through the willingness to confront their pasts, rise above it, and keep moving forward together. The journey was far from over, but they had taken the first important step, a testament to their growth, potential, and the ongoing pursuit of authenticity. For the first time in a long while, Emily felt a new authority over her own narrative. Not just surviving, but thriving. Now the real work began, and she was ready to embrace it. Don't wait even one more second. You need to subscribe now to catch the next exclusive emotional stories that will leave you inspired. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Emily's journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion.